Hi guys, welcome back to the Yorkshire Modeller. We've now got issue 8 of Hachette Partworks Spitfire. So, with issue 8, we are carrying on with the supercharger. We get some extra details for the supercharger, and we get a couple of details that get mounted on the engine as well. So I'll just move these parts magazine over. In fact, no, I won't. I'll show you what we get. So these are the parts that we get, and there's quite a good few stages this week in this week's build. So supercharger should hopefully be pretty much. We should be getting towards the end of building it. We should be attaching it onto the engine block soon enough. But let's start at the beginning. Take parts 8.1 and 8.2. So that's these two parts that are sort of rounded at the top, look a little bit like a jetpack. And identify the two pegs on parts 8.1 and the corresponding holes on 8.2. When you are happy with the fit, apply a little super glue to the two pegs and fix the parts together. So that will be that way around. So yeah, they fit together nicely. Not too much of a gap and not too small a gap either. There we go. So put them together. So that's those two bits all done and dusted there. So that's part 1 of the instructions. Part 2 is take 8.3 and check how the shaped lower edge of the assembly that we've just done fits inside the shaped rim of part 1.3. Apply a little super glue to the inside of the rim and fix the parts together. So there's one side of this that's just basically a carbon copy of the shape of it, and then on the other side you've got one that's a little bit kind of indented. That's this one, so you can see that there matches up with that one. So if we swing that around, make sure that fits properly. Yes, it does. So a bit of glue just on the inside of here, a bit on that side there. There we are. So slot that in place. This one really looks like a jetpack now. So hold that in. There we go. Make sure that bites. So you've got those parts all done there. Take the supercharger from issue 7. So that we've got here. And the 3 pegs on the back of part 8.2 fit into corresponding sockets on 7.2. When you're happy with the fit, apply a little glue. So we've got the 3 little pegs just there. And then we've got the 3 little holes just there on this one. So double check the fit on that. That top one doesn't appear to be going in very well, so let's bring my file again and just sand a little bit of that paint off. And then try it again. A little bit better, but I'll just need a little bit more. I'm going to take a bit more out of this hole this time. There we go. So that pushes in nicely. And if we pull that apart, a little bit of glue on these pegs. So then we'll slot that one in there, slot that one in there, slot that one in there. Give that a good push so everything is in properly. There we are. So that's all glued on there to the supercharger. So that's that bit done. So we'll just pop that kind of just there so you can see what we've done with that. Part 4, cut parts A and B from frame 8.4, so that's the black one. Now these are all numbered, so is that the right one? Yes, it is. These parts are a lot smaller than they look on these pictures. On the pictures they look like they're made of cast metal, but they're tiny, absolutely tiny. So cut parts A and B from the frame, taking care to separate them from the frame at the right points so that they look like the pieces shown. So it's those two pieces. Can you see them? A bit difficult to catch them on there. But that one and that one, those two. So on the sprue they're labelled up as parts 1 and 2. So if I just clip that off and then clip that off, so that's part A. And then part B is that one just into there. There we go. So they look exactly like the pieces shown. Smooth the edges with a very fine sandpaper to remove any roughness where they were cut from the frame. So what I've actually got is, somewhere here, I've got one of these like sanding sticks. I've had these for a while, but it's just nice to be able to get a little bit of a nice smooth sand on him. Here's the slightly rougher one for this. That's one, other side, and then same on that. Squadron, that's where I've got these from. I'm trying to think of the name where I got those from. It's Squadron. So now what we're doing with this is on part A there are two, can't really make it out on there, can you? There are two tiny little holes in the top. Those two little holes match up to the two pegs that are on the back of part B. So I'll put I'll try and put a couple of pictures up on screen now of the instructions and how it all fits together, because it isn't quite as, because these parts are so small, it's not as easy as it looks. And to be honest with you, because it's a CG image on all these magazines, unlike the Bismarck, which is you know, actually the parts, someone's built them and showing you how to do it. This is all computer generated. These aren't as easy to understand, I do have to be honest. So that's basically those two parts all put together there. So that's tiny parts done. Cut parts E and F from this one. So if we have a look at the beginning again. So E and F are these two parts on the silver sprue, these two kind of L-shaped ones. So if I clip that one and clip that one, and same on this one, there and there. And check how the parts fit together. Remove any excess paint from the sockets to get a better fit. If necessary, apply a little super glue to each of the pegs and glue together. Now they're sitting really well together, to be honest. So circle of glue around each peg, same as we've done all the way through, and then just push fit those two together there. So that's that part done. Cut part G from frame 8.5. So part G is this one just in this top corner up here, and making sure that we get the right parts cut off. There we go. And then fit that onto what we've just attached. There's a slot for the pin to fit in, so there's a pin on the back of the part that we've just cut off. You can kind of just make it out on camera there, and then on the part that we're gluing it to, you can see just there at the top there's a little like groove. So that's where we're gluing, basically where we're gluing this part into. So I just put a bit of glue inside there, spin like that, line that up, push that into place. Hopefully that should grab. Oh, no, a bit more glue. I'm going to put a bit of glue around the edge of this part actually, to try and get it to attach and bite on. There we go, that's better. So that's that one done. Cut the two bolt-shaped eyes from frame 8.5. So that'll be parts 5 and 5 on here. These are so bleeding small. Really take your time with this because these parts are oh god, they're tiny. Now when you're cutting them off the sprue as well, what I find the easiest way to do it is, with parts like that small, if you cut one side off and then hold the part and then cut the other side, it just makes it a little bit easier to cut them off. And then these two go into the two holes that are just down at the bottom of this silver part. You're not going to be able to make that out too easily because it's not exactly very bright. So if I bring the tweezers in as well actually. So which way around do these go? So it's the larger end goes into those two holes. So I'll put a dab of glue in there. Grab one of these. Just push that in there. There we go, that's in. And then same thing with the other one. No, wrong side. It's gone. Balls. Right, so that one's gone and flown away. So I really hope nothing attaches to that, but I don't think it will with how small the part is. So I have literally just got the one of those little pins on. I heard it ping off something as well, so it's probably somewhere on my desk. If I find it, I'll just glue it on and let you know. But yeah, as far as we've got now, there's only the one piece on there, so that's done. Cut part C and D from this frame, so these are the only two parts left on this one. And that's the last two parts off the black sprue there. And then we are gluing the peg on the back of the part with the rounded head, that one there. We're gluing the peg on the back of there into the little slot on that one, so just line those up. Yep, perfect fit. Bit of glue on there, like that. And then making sure we get this the right way around. So the two rounded ends should face the same way, so that's that one done as well. Make sure that's on properly there, that's that. So that's all those parts done. So that's the part 8 done. Now for part 9, as the assembly E, F and G fits onto the side of the supercharger. There are two pegs on the supercharger that fit into the sockets on part F. So that's this one. And then if we get the supercharger here, make sure it's facing the right way. So this part with all the silver little bits on that I've lost a part of goes into the two holes on the inside of the supercharger that you can see just there. So, and it's these two pins on this silver part sticking out on this side here that go in. So a dab of glue on there. There we go. and then so that goes in that way around like that. There we go. So that's that bit attached onto there. When you're happy with the fit, apply a little super glue, check the fit, done. The assembly A and B, which is the two really small plastic parts, fits onto the supercharger as indicated by the arrows. So that's on the other side, and there's another two little holes just there. So these two little black bits just go into those two holes there. So if I ring a glue around each of them, ring a glue on that one, and then this has to go with the points facing straight down, so that you'll know what part I mean when I say the points. It looks like you can just about make it out on there actually, just here, just pointing straight down there. So that's that done. And then the assembly C and D, which is this one here, fits onto the base of the supercharger. And note the orientation, the pieces with the pipes on part C coming out towards you in this view. Right, so for this one, part C, basically you're gluing it in. Make sure I'm getting it the right way around. Yep, so you're gluing it in that way round. So we've got the supercharger here, so this is the bit that attached to the engine. Those two bits that stick out, the two pipes, will point that way once they're in that little hole. So I need a little bit more glue in a minute, I think. That's that. So that fits in. Actually, that's a really good fit there. That fits in really, really well. I like that. So that's that bit done. Right. So now we cut part J from the frame. Note that this piece has an arm. So that'd be that one then, wouldn't it? Right. So look at the instructions again. Part J is that one. So when it says it's got an arm, it's this one in this top corner here. So it's number 6 on the sprue, just this one up here. So we'll cut this off like that. Done. And then holding this the right way around, so you'll be holding it with this side with the 4 little pins on facing towards you. Hold that in there, and then there's a little peg. Right, so I'm just going to file this down a wee bit just to make sure that I get that smooth. There we go. So, and it's just this little hole kind of just there, that bottom one on the supercharger. So that fits in there. Make sure it's the right way around. So it fits in that way. That's it. Lovely. So I'll put a bead of glue around the edge of there. And then get that in the right orientation, and then just push that in there. Like that. So that's that one all in there as well. And so that's part J. Take the hose 8.7. Note that this part is quite flexible but needs to be handled carefully. The square peg on the tap end of the hose fits into the recess under part J. So that part J that we've just fitted, there's a little recess in the bottom of it, so that's where that part goes. The angled end of the hose fits into a socket in the square block on part C. fitted in step 11. Okay, right, this is going to be a little bit more confusing. So if that goes in that way, which it can't, it's got to go in that way. So that must fit in there. Yes, it does. Once you actually get it all lined up, it's quite easy. So there's a little hole, like a little square rectangular hole, and then on the hose part there's that little nub that you can see there. So that fits in just in there, and then the hose itself fits into the little circular butt at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the glue in there, and put that in like that, and then I'm just going to let that glue set up just a little bit. Right, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Definitely need some more glue. Drop. So now that that part's in, just a case of doing the other end, putting a bead of glue in there. A bit more, there we go. And then just gently pushing that hose into the hole like that. So that's that pipe all attached there as well. So that's that bit done. Take the pipe 8.6, which is the black one. The larger end fits in the hole between the two parts on the back of the supercharger. Right, so on the supercharger here, on this side of it, there's two little holes. So there's a big one there and then a little rectangular one. That is where these parts fit into. So I'm going to do this the exact same way around I did it on the that silver cable that we've just put in. I'm going to put the little black little end in first, like that. These cables are quite, they've obviously made them out of like plastic that can be moved quite easily, so which is good, makes it much easier for you when you're building this. And then just pull that back and then push that in there like that. Yeah, and that's that one in just there as well. So that's all the cables attached onto the supercharger. And then so cut part H, which is the on here it's numbered part 2. It's annoying when they do it that way. I just number it random numbers. Actually, no, that's not. That isn't part H. That's part K. Part H is number 4. See what I mean? Just number them the same. It'd make life so much easier for us. So next we need the engine, and it's the two holes that are on the back of the engine just there. So on that little, can you see it? I don't know whether you'll be able to make it out. On one of the engine tops of the engine block, there's one side that's got two little holes. These two parts go into those two little holes. So part H goes in the one that's closest to the middle of the block. So pop that one in there like that. Go on, go in you little, there we are. So that's that one just into there. And then part K has a bolt, so do not depreciate it when cutting the frame. When fitted, the bolts point upwards. So that's the one facing upwards. Right, so part K will go in the other hole with the little bolt that's on the side of it facing straight up. So let's get this put in, glued in, pointing straight up. Right, make sure in the instructions that's right, looks like it. So they're the two bolts that are on the back of the engine there, so the supercharger is obviously going to sit there when it's all done. Those two bolts are on, and further details have been added to the supercharger and the engine block. So that's everything done then for issue 8. So yeah, that's issue 8 all done. With issue 9, we get some more details for the engine and supercharger, plus pipes for the top of the engine block. So that's all the parts we get there. We get a couple of cast metal parts, a few more wires, and then another sprue. If I find that little bolt type thing that pinged off my my desk, I will attach that onto the supercharger. But it looks good even without that, to be honest, and I'd still be able to get it in because of the way I've built the supercharger up. So we've got the supercharger there as well, and then the two parts just there attached onto the front of the engine. Back of the engine. It'd be the back, wouldn't it? It is the back. So once again, when this is all put together with those 4 pins in, you can see the size of the engine there, and obviously what it's going to look like there as well. So it's coming along. Same as I said in the last video, it's all starting to come along now. So please remember to like, share and subscribe to the Yorkshire Modeller for more weekly model building geekiness. Issue 9 of the Spitfire will be up next Sunday, and until then guys, happy modelling and stay safe.